Is it gonna just be me and you?
No, you know, last week we had 5 other people.
Yeah, I know. I saw the recording.
Yeah. So hopefully we have some people returning here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, I had a little chat with Shane, or I think we're gonna start you know, my inclination actually, I think I'm gonna just do a on the same day, I'm gonna have both a early and a late session.
Okay.
Just so we can start getting through doing more content. And probably I'll do what the telco group does, and I'll do the same content in both meetings.
Okay. So is this the early session or the late session?
But we're gonna start that next time. This is just the regular one for now.
Yeah, but will this become the early
Oh,
session or the late session?
sorry, yeah. Well, at least I don't know. For me, it'll be the early session.
Okay.
I'm horrible at time zones, but yeah, the next one would be in about I don't know, 10, 11 hours after this.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I think for you and then Central Standard Time, this is probably the easiest one, I'm guessing. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, well, it's past my bedtime in 10 or 11 hours. It's
yeah.
past my bedtime.
Yeah. So while we're giving people a couple minutes here, I can. Oh, and by the way, this is a funny week. Usually I try to do every other week, but I think Shane had a couple of our um, invites smashed together. So,
Yeah.
yep. Sebastian, how are you? Let's see. And by the way, if you're watching this, we got up through to slide 19, going through there. So I think I was going to suggest that we start there. Um, we kind of held off because I think it was starting to get into a bit of a, you know, license compatibility is can be a little complex topic to describe um, elegantly, I should say. So,
Mhm.
you know, we in our last 5 minutes of the other meeting, we decided to hold off on that one because it may need more time. And okay, so last thing I'm going to do before really diving in, I'm going to go over to the I think there's a version of this where you can see if there's some graphics, and I think we had some on some of these. So here, you know, I may
Nathan,
have
is it
to.
possible for you to make the screen or print bigger?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's
let me
better.
see if I lose the. Looks like a print layout right now. Let's see. I just don't want to lose the comments there.
The first one you had was okay.
Yeah. I,
And
I think that's the best I can do without losing comments.
There's that zoom just to the left of your cursor that maybe you could try. So it has 100% listed on it at the moment.
Oh, right here. Ah,
So it still hides the comments, which is a shame.
that is a shame.
well, maybe if you just kind of scrolled over a little bit
Okay.
and lose some of the left margin, then see the comments.
Excellent idea. There it goes.
All right. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay. let's see, and this Microsoft bar is taking up a little of my room. Here, I got rid of that. There we go. Okay, perfect. Well, yeah, let's get started with our group. Do we all know each other? Usually I offer a quick chance to say hi. But as a reminder, I'm Nathan. I'm the chair of the work group. I work with Qualcomm and have worked with the community for a number of years, including one of the early things I helped with was put this slide deck together. I think it started with like 300 some slides donated from various people, and I think that I took the first pass on pulling it together into a group of about 60 or 70 slides, and then the education work group team has since made a couple of revisions. But yeah, I think this is one of those resources that it's been most. I think it's been appreciated by many who are able just to take something in either Markdown or PowerPoint format and just easily drop it into whatever they're doing. So yeah, so this one gets a lot of use, and yeah, every improvement we can do on it is definitely worthwhile. So yeah, so anyone else want to say hi before we dive in?
Well,
sure, I can. Go ahead, Sebastian.
thank you. So, yeah, I think I've met you two on the last call. I'm coming in mostly from the SBOM world. That's my main area of expertise. But I've also been involved in license compliance issues for quite a while, including as part of the SPDX project, but also as part of other aspects like the Reuse project and OpenChain, clearly defined, and just sort of generally providing advice to people in the open source community.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. My name is Mary Matron. I've been working with open source for about 8 years in various capacities, not specifically reading licenses in detail, but putting together training, promoting and getting things in place for OpenChain compliance, different activities like that. So this training work group is right up my alley.
So thank you for being so active in it, and thank you, Sebastian, too. And yeah, it's always a little tough for me knowing who's met who. So I like to at least offer the time to introduce. So thank you for that. Okay, so license compatibility is where we reached, and welcome to drop in comments, or if you want to pause on something earlier, happy to do that. Does everyone have the link? Can I ask? I can drop it into the chat window too. Sometimes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably easier. I'm sure I could dig it up if I really wanted to, but.
Okay, here it is. Yep. Let me know if you can't see it, but it's in the meeting chat. You can read along there if you like. So license compatibility. This was a fairly wordy slide. One thing we did in a prior couple slides is we decided to split up the slide and add a little more detail in an area or two. So, let's take a look at this and let's see if this one can be either simplified or needs to be better explained in some way.
Well, I like the example here. I think that's really good and helpful. Do we talk about derivative work anyplace else?
We mentioned it. Yeah, I'll scroll up just for a moment. I think we mentioned it in the, let's see, I thought it was the copyleft one, but where is this here?
I don't know if it just makes it more complicated to explain the examples, but it might be useful to add some kind of context, an example of where it is used. License incompatibilities prevent people from using software. For instance, I can think of the class path exception, which is how Java software is allowed to be distributed, despite the example that was given on that slide. And then in a completely different world, there's most Rust projects, most Rust libraries are dual licensed under the MIT and Apache license, which at first seems like quite a bizarre choice, but that's because a lot of Rust developers wanted Rust to be used in the Linux kernel, which is GPL2. So that's an example where, if you look at the Rust cargo packages, you might think, well, that's a little odd. Why are they all licensed under two mostly equivalent ones? And that's in order to ensure compatibility with the Linux kernel.
Interesting.
Leads to some decisions such as Rust, MIT, Apache, right?
Yeah.
And I think if I were to rewritten this slide altogether, I might have used like Apache and the GPL as the example rather than the EPL and GPL. Oh, by the way, what was the other example you mentioned other than Rust? It was the
Yeah, so the other example is Java.
Java and class path.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's probably the more relevant example, considering I believe the original Java was under the EPL.
Okay. So maybe this is why this example's here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's an example of dual licenses, right? It's not really license compatibility.
Well, the reason those dual licenses were chosen is not for, say, commercial reasons, which is often one, but in order to make the license incompatibility, irrelevant. So if they'd only chosen Apache, for instance, Rust libraries couldn't have been used inside Linux. But because they have that dual license, then you can choose to use the libraries within the Linux kernel without violating the GPL.
Okay, so maybe before we even get to license compatibility, there should be a couple of slides, one that goes into dual licensing and one that goes into what a derivative work is. And then the license compatibility kind of refers back to those topics, or those topics have already been introduced. So, they can be referred to without explanation.
Yeah, okay, so I did check, Mary. We do introduce the derivative work topic. I think it's slide 6. I'm going to put a marker in here to check for the dual license definition and see if we've gotten to that yet. But yeah, I agree. If we want to kind of explain some of those concepts, we should set the stage for them before getting to it and license compatibility. And then Sebastian, I think I think what I'm capturing from here, and I like the idea, is if we talk about why license compatibility is important, it leads to some decisions, right, in the community. So yeah.
And I think it is important there because a lot of people looking at a license in isolation might come to a different choice. Whereas actually, if you're creating a low-level driver or something, you have no choice but to comply with the GPL2.
Yeah.
So it's better to understand where those compatibility issues lie before you start.
One question I have, and if this were just me looking at it, I might suggest replacing the EPL GPL example with the Apache and GPL, because I think that's probably the one that people would run into more. given the popularity of both of those licenses. And I think it can be explained a little more simply than the 3 points here, but I don't know what you feel. Do you like the EPL GPL?
I think the Apache GPL would be better, but obviously that is rewriting it, so it comes with a certain amount of effort.
Yeah, but happy to rewrite too here at this stage. If this is if I get another vote for it, I can call it a work group idea. I don't know. Yeah, Mary, any objection to that, or is that, what do you think?
Well, no, I guess I'd have to see it. The GPL EPL is very simple and straightforward.
Yeah.
So you don't get into kind of choices or anything like that, which is a little bit more complex. Maybe that's even, yeah, never mind.
I kind of mean too, like, oh yeah, like the thing with the GPL and Apache example too is we can call it, here's the incompatibility between a permissive and a copyleft license instead of two, flavors of copyleft licenses as well.
Well, that's not necessarily the thing either, because the reason why Rust libraries use the MIT license is because the Apache license has a different patent grant. In fact, it has fewer guarantees than the GPL3, but the Linux kernel can't upgrade to GPL3 because they don't hold all the copyright, and Linus Torvalds was opposed to the idea when they might have been able to do so. So it becomes very complex very quickly, and I don't think even I could summarize, within a single meeting without looking back to the mailing lists and such, why those decisions were made.
Yeah. All right, maybe I'll suggest some language and we can see what people think. But do you think, if we, let's see here. We look into that example and then perhaps talk about some of the implications. I think those are some good feedback for the slide. The one other thing I wondered is if this paragraph can be more simply explained. For our translators, it's nice to reduce things that are wordy.
To be honest, I think you could get rid of everything after the word compatible.
Yeah. One license requires it.
Or we could say the licenses conflict and you can't combine software written in them. But even that's not technically true in all cases.
Yeah. This is conflict, and then we say you may not be able to combine them.
Yeah.
Yeah, should we say what that scope is? The combination scope, is it within one binary, within one entire product, which may be multiple binaries? What would that scope?
I think we kind of have to start with do you think like a general note? Let me see. Take the note. So example of combinations, right?
Yeah.
Do we discuss that earlier? And I don't think we do.
To be honest, I'd say this is one of the areas in which open source license compliance becomes a bit might is right, really. Because, there are examples like Ubuntu using the ZFS file system on the very technical reading of the two licenses, they were not able to combine the Linux kernel with the ZFS file system. And yet they did do so. They haven't been sued, which is, something considering the size of the company that holds the copyright to ZFS. As a result, ZFS is becoming more acknowledged. And so, I don't want to comment one way or the other on the specifics of the license, but that seems to me like a bit, well, they did it anyway and it was fine. And I don't necessarily think that's something we should encourage for a beginner's guide.
What if, at least for the intro kind of to this topic, does it sound good if, and Mary, I backed off the kind of like combination language. If I just say kind of in the practical sense, you might not be able to use them together, right? Then more digging is needed, right, to know exactly what you can do, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I wish I could do a strike through here, but I don't think my version of.
What about the dot dot? Is there a dot 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 next to the 11, the font size?
I found it. There.
Oh, that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to Alt-Shift-5. I'll remember that. So. Hey, Viral, good to see you on board again. So welcome back.
Hey, how are you?
Hey there. Hey, would you like to just give a quick intro?
Sure. Are you able to hear me?
Yep, we can hear you great.
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm open source engineer in Amazon. I joined like about a year ago now in open source program office at Amazon. I'm interested in knowing. My goal is to see like how we can gauge community health and have a better SBOM as a result of it, or like work with or like figure so that developers have some sort of tools to make sure that more communities that the packages that they are selecting are from communities that are more sustainable. So instead of using, say, a package from a dead community or a dead project that has been dormant for 15 years, they're selecting and investing in communities that are more viable and working with them. And one of my teammates recommended that I join your group as well as Chaos to learn and understand more on how some of these things works. Also, I'm new to understanding how open source communities work themselves. So this is a good exposure. I'm guessing this will be a good exposure for me.
Yeah, so yes, and thank you. And so thanks for joining again, and look forward to working with you.
Sure.
If I can slightly go off topic then and reply. I think one of the most unusual things about the OpenChain group, and a lot of the Linux Foundation groups in general, is that we have video calls. And that's actually very unusual, it seems, in general open source communities. I can't think of a single other open source community that I've been involved with where video calls or audio calls have been the primary mode of interaction.
That's actually very nice for me because I have not been involved in that many communities. So for me, it looks like this is a normal because I think I was in meeting earlier today with Chaos community and now this one, and both are Zoom calls. So
yeah, you'll find that I think IRC channels have, they're very invisible if you're not in them. You can hardly see they're there. They're not even on the web, of course, being a different internet protocol. And yet, you might look at a project like Arch Linux and think, well, this is dead. But that's mostly because they don't use the web as much, not because they are in any way small or inactive.
Yeah, so that's interesting, Sebastian. I hadn't really thought of that. But yeah, I guess we're a chatty group.
Yeah.
So Viral, we just had gone through, we tackled the license compatibility slide. And so I think that one took us a little while, given it's kind of a sticky issue. But
Yep.
Yeah. So if I will drop the link in once more for you to see, and you can join along there as well.
Sure.
And so, as always, I welcome people asking me to drop in comments, or you can drop them in too if you like. So.
It looks like the link is not work. Okay, now it's working.
Okay. And sorry, Mary, were you gonna mention something or? Okay.
No, sorry. Screen's getting lost.
Okay.
I unmuted. Getting lost. Okay, no, I don't have anything else.
Okay. All right. So let's go to slide 20 and notices. So here's where we just want to at least give people the definition and the, know what this piece is here. I think this one's pretty straightforward to me. So.
I don't have anything to add.
I don't think I do on this one. So unless I hear anything, I will scroll down to slide 21.
So I have one item for the multi-licensing.
Yeah.
Sometimes some projects use either or, and sometimes some projects use and. Do you want to clarify on that one? Because I think that's like if there is some opinion on that one. So like, as an and mean like you are required to follow both, or it's like you choose one of those two?
I think this is where we had a table in the PowerPoint version, and it hasn't translated super well to this markdown, but we split up into conjunctive and disjunctive, meaning, to capture what you were saying, the and or.
Yep.
And yeah, Mary, this is I think this is where our combination or dual licensed content is getting defined here. So
yeah. So I think this should be before the discussion of license compatibility.
Yeah. Slide. Use here. Slide. Okay. But I'll get in touch with Shane after this meeting. I'll try to figure out how we can both view the graphics when there are any, as well as this text here.
Okay.
And I think we have a typo. Let's see, one set. I will say that one other way we could describe this is and or. I don't know.
So in a multi-licensing situation, does the user have to select which license they're using?
It depends on, is it this number one here or number two, right? If it's a conjunctive license, then you have to obey both licenses.
Okay.
It's disjunctive, so you get a choice, right? Yeah.
So does the license itself say if it's conjunctive or disjunctive?
Well, can I answer So
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
'cause
please go.
it's a bit of a sort of. In a lot of cases, you actually don't know, and it's a real pain. And that's an ambiguity of the person who combined the two licenses. There is a way of making it very clear, and that was invented by the SPDX working group, and that uses the terms and or in capitals to describe the combination. And there's something else which I will put in the chat if you've not come across it before. It's a website, reuse.software. That was started by the Free Software Foundation Europe and builds upon the SPDX and or identifiers. If someone uses that for their software, so they are compliant with reuse, then it's always clear whether it's conjunctive or disjunctive. So I would say that in most cases, if you see two licenses, it's conjunctive. And you just have to obey both of those. If you see reuse.software in use, then you know exactly whether it's disjunctive or conjunctive.
Yeah. Hey, reuse.software, is that a...
Yeah, that's a website. You might want to put HTTP and trick it into putting it as a URL.
Okay. I think this is one where this when I look at this, I think we need to do a simplification pass on the language. And I wonder if we can use, we can explain what conjunctive and disjunctive means. But I don't always hear this term used, or if we can find a simpler term for that, I think that might be helpful too. Do you hear this discussed in different ways? Like, is there a different term people use in your organizations?
I have mostly seen on GitHub communities like and or license. So it gets confusing. Most of the time, I think there is a lot of confusion there. I'll put it that way. Because we don't know what developers when they put out those two and or license, did they put out, we assume that they want to have maximum use of that software, so they might have some reason why people are doing things in a certain way, but we don't know necessarily the reason behind them.
Yeah. Okay. Good luck.
I think maybe if we just took the words conjunctive and disjunctive out and let the other side of the equation apply, that's probably the most clear thing. You have a situation where multiple licenses apply, and you have a situation where you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
You might be right there, but I'm playing devil's advocate here. It is very useful to be able to look at Wikipedia and just see that, the definition of conjunctive and disjunctive is in logic, and you can understand that without having to read any licenses at all.
What if I call it this, and then need be called?
Yeah, because in practice, nobody says conjunctive or disjunctive.
Yeah. They usually use the and term, and I think and or works a lot for engineering audiences.
But I think that's only possible because engineers have always defined and very precisely.
Yeah.
Whereas in colloquial terms, and or are used a little more fluidly.
Yeah. So maybe. Or Okay. And since I can't remember my, let's see, shortcut, let's see, Alt Shift 5. I'll try the next one. We give some situations here and then we kind of repeat this. So I do think some of this can drop. This is a lot of text.
Mhm.
And this, we need to fix an open source policy. Which license are used? Yeah, and this is the term I most often hear is it's called a dual license, and then people don't distinguish that with the and or. But the most important thing I think is to draw forward. Here's the terms you use, you hear in the community. This is what it means, and so I think we should promote the common terms and explain what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they can put reason, like if they can put more information, like dual, when they're saying dual, then do users have to comply with both licenses or either one of those? That will make life a lot more simpler.
Yeah. Or both.
I'm not sure if having that census disjunctive licensing may be something blah blah. I don't know if that's really necessary there.
Yeah.
In my company, when we do a policy, it's going to be much more high level than specifying if we can use disjunctive licenses or not. That's really going to go down to the smaller portion of the organization making those decisions for themselves.
Yeah. Don't need to simplify. So how about this? When we do our simplification pass, we'll consider this a candidate for the chopping block. I'll put that note in here. So.
I think one reason this might be so complicated is that there's almost no situation outside of open source software where you get this complexity of licensing. Either you buy the license or you don't.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I think we could maybe use is this might be a good one where we need a graphic, right?
Maybe. Yeah, well, in open source, there's so many, like everything's possible. And to try to put that into a diagram.
Yeah. I think what I was trying to say is like maybe the and or concept, right?
Okay.
At least I think that we can show that, kind of line that up with the common words associated with those. Might help drive the point home instead of using as many words. What I hope is we can delete some paragraphs and just kind of explain with pictures and help our translators. Terms. Okay. Give that one a little thought. Finally, let me ask lastly, I know we gave some examples here of the Mozilla trial license. Is there any other kind of common examples that or is there anything more common now in the last couple of years that
Eclipse and GPL v2. That's the one I have encountered a few times. You have Eclipse and GPL v2 with some exception.
Okay. That one came up in the license compatibility. Let's see. EPL.
Do we have like an appendix in this deck? Maybe we could list some of these things just briefly for further exploration, like Eclipse and GPLv2 are they conjunctive or disjunctive?
Yeah.
And then, kind of some of these things that we've mentioned that people can maybe explore more specifically, or maybe even going into a little bit more detail, like how you would pick a license, because that goes into license compatibility.
Okay.
Right.
So, Viral, did you say that you've actually seen a choice between EPL and, I should say or here, GPL or GPL with an exception or an EPL? So you actually have GPL plus exception, or you can choose to only use the standard EPL.
I think I have seen, so I have, most of the time I have seen those in scan code reports. So there I think sometimes it's or, sometimes it's in or of bracket. Let me see if I can find one of the reports. But I've seen either or as well as and. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying it's very confusing. Like what you have put here, like as in forward slash. So forward slash, does that mean and? Or I will go with an assumption of or.
Viral, if you end up finding a specific situation like that, we can add it in as
Sure.
a detail here. So yeah, add it in as a comment if you happen to find it. The one I thought you were going to mention was EPL, EDL.
I've seen mostly EPL, EDL. I think I just saw like very recently. It just came up. That was very surprising. We just thought that was like modified BSD, and I think they just got OSI approved for it. So I don't think I've seen EDL in or with anything so far.
Okay.
But I'm sure there might be project out there. They may have something like that.
Yeah, I know the Eclipse moved a lot of their code to this EPL, EDL, so that it's easier just to reuse it outside of the Eclipse project. And so I think that's the other common kind of scenario I've seen kind of at least more often, at least in my world. So, and I like your idea about, I just want to finish the note here before we move on. Like, I think what you're kind of talking about was like an example of applications of these like concepts, right?
Yeah.
And steps. And I think, yeah, because we've gone through definitions, and we do need somewhere to really like show people, hey, what's this mean, right? And that probably deserves some slides, right? Like here, now that you know the definitions, here's what it can look like together, right? Because a lot of these overlap with each other.
So like, I think this is one example where I think it's like in a notice file. So when I run scan code to check something, it will give me something like this. Now here, I'm sure like because when I see the actual notice file, it will have all of these licenses. And this is a situation where I know that it is not an either or, because each has its own, this is like coming from a third-party files or components inside open source. So individual files may have GPL3. So this is more common that I have seen. Like good chunk of open source projects put like third-party or notice along with there. So wider project may be under Apache, but some of the dependencies they may have, or some of the components that they may have, some of the files that someone else may have put, that may have individual licenses that may be GPL.
Yeah. Hey, just quick, curious, are you seeing this coming from a project, or is this coming from like an SBOM From
This is from SBOM.
okay. Yeah, and I think that's another interesting point is that so these situations may show up in both like upstream project licensing and response produced by companies, right?
Yep.
Show up and now, I'm not sure it's possible, but if we can, let's take a look at, perhaps we can try to finish out this this chapter at least today. And then we'll be able to start fresh with the next one. Is anyone hearing some beeping? Is that?
No,
Okay, not sure if that's me, but yeah.
I have lawnmowers going in the background. I don't know if you can hear that.
I heard beeping, but I think it stopped now.
Okay, it looks like we may have lost Sebastian. I wonder if he was having issues.
Oh,
Okay, so check your understanding. Again, this is like a slide we had at the end of each of the chapters with the idea that if, you know, one requirement you had for your training program was to test people, you know, we want to make that easy for people. In some ways, this ends up being a lot of the content, kind of like Mary, you're talking about how does these get applied.
I heard the beeping.
Yeah, I am too.
I don't hear any beep.
Okay, that's odd, but I will, all right. Maybe let's take a quick look at this and let's use the last couple minutes here to just call out issues. I usually try to end at about 5:02 so that people have time for the next thing. And so the formatting is a bit off. I think you'll just have to kind of compare the question. You know, the first question goes with the first answer here. I think in the slide we have a little bit of a chart there that you can see this. So Markdown just makes it appear this way. I think it might make sense if I start to copy through here.
So did it name, earlier in the text, did it name some permissive open source licenses?
I believe in early on. I think if I recall correctly, I would rather not scroll up here all the way, but I do believe we introduce, you know, a lot of these common licenses.
Okay.
But that's yeah, we need to make sure we've introduced the content. Let's see. Oh, and welcome back, Sebastian.
Thank you very much. There was some feedback, so I thought it'd be best if I left.
Okay, it actually kept going after you were out, so I wonder if it's me, but
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just thankful for the the software that stops it from going above 100.
I think what we've done is taken a question out of each of the major slides and just created a question there.
I was looking at stuff, but I was not putting my name there because I felt like I don't have enough knowledge or experience.
All right, I'm just going to move the last couple questions down. I don't feel like I have a lot of feedback here, except that I think Mary's point about not just quizzing on the application of these, but having some slides that like demonstrate how these kind of terms work would probably be more helpful than just these questions. You know, the other thing I thought about is, you know, do we, instead of having quiz questions, do we just start having a FAQ at the end of these?
I think quiz questions are like everyone wants to have them. Like whenever we design it, whenever you want to design a training program that is self-service or that is not delivered by a live person, you want to have some sort of quiz.
Okay, that's helpful to know. I think that's true in my org too, and it's nice that people don't have to create their own questions. So, yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying a live presenter and live audience are necessarily better. People find ways to entertain themselves in those training sessions as well, but at least you have physical presence.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't feel like I have. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I was going to turn this into virtual training with a quiz at the end, I would have to somehow, like, these are essay answers, and an automated system that doesn't work.
Excellent point. I think I see what you're saying there too. We want something that's gradable, right?
Yep. Yeah, it will be like multiple choice.
All right, thank you, Marie.
Leave the essay answer there, and if people want to make some kind of automated quiz, they can make their own multiple choice.
Yeah.
Because I would probably put a couple of sort of correct answers and then maybe a couple of goofy answers or something like that in there.
You know, and I think one of the original slides, they had like questions on one side, they had answers on the other, and you had to kind of mix them, you had to kind of match them up.
I think that's kind of fancy for our purposes.
Okay, well, let's wrap up there for now. This way we can start at slide 23. You know, as we get into some complex topics, it takes a little longer to get through. So thank you for helping us work through those. We'll look at picking up here at the next meeting. So, all right. Well, it was nice again to chat with you all, and thank you again. Hope you have a great week. So.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.